Okay, so from our last video, we got done doing this handle right here, and then I just want to add in this little lock cylinder, that little metal piece. So the easiest way to do that is we still have our 3D cursor where we placed it here to make this handle, and then once again I'm going to go ahead and turn our clipping off. Okay. Then we're going to bring in a cylinder, just like I started out with the mailbox. So to do that, we can do Shift A. Okay. We're going to add a trying to debate. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do a cylinder. Okay. So once again, it's going to bring it in as a big, huge thing. You'll notice it kind of remembers how we wanted our ends to be. Okay, and so down here you can click that and change what you need to, but everything's good there. Okay, and if you notice that weird artifacting in there, that's because it's actually, you know, mirroring two of these. So let me go ahead and hit S. Scale this way down. Zoom in. S again. Keep scaling. Okay. About where we can see it. Okay, so on here, let me go ahead and pull this out this way. This is going to be the easiest way to do this. Is since we don't want to pull this away, we want this right down in the middle, but it causes some problems sometimes when we try to edit and delete things that are mirrored. We want to go ahead and just kind of turn the visibility on this off. So to do that, we can click this little screen right here, and that's going to turn the visibility of that modifier off. So you can see everything that's mirrored now is gone. Okay, and this is, you know, why it's doing that. You can kind of double check, make sure everything's like you want it to be. Okay, so since it's going to be mirrored right down the middle, what we want to do on this is just turn that on. We just want to delete all of this geometry here from the middle. Okay, so once again, we can highlight this, and even though we have the edges highlighted, when we hit X and select the vertices, it's going to delete everything over here to this middle one. Okay, and just while we're here, while we have this turned off, we can go ahead and hover over this, hit L, and then we want to rotate it on the Z axis 90 degrees. So to do that again, you hit R for rotate. It's going to bring this up. Okay, we want to rotate on the X axis. Okay, and we want to do that 90 degrees, and then hit enter. Okay, and then now we can turn our mirror back on. Okay, so there we go. It's going to turn that ghosting off. Okay, we're going to keep bringing this out, and we're going to bring this down. And so the more you mess in these 3D programs, the more you'll kind of know where you're at in 3D space better. Otherwise, you kind of see me doing that, but it's, you know, after a while, you just kind of know where it's at. Okay, so now we want to make this skinnier, where it kind of fits into that door, so we can scale it along the Y-axis. So S and Y. Scale it down like that. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit of a what do they call that? Cartoony version. I don't want to make it too real. So as I say, everything's kind of exaggerated a little bit. But from here, we just want to slide into the door. Okay. And now if we look at here, there's kind of a bezel that goes around, and then the place where we put the key in. Okay. So to do this, let's see. Alright, so here's a little trick. See, if we were to do this now and hit E to extrude and then scale this inward, we do E to extrude and then S to scale, and it does this really weird everything here, okay? Because it's only seeing that left side as real geometry, so it's using that as where the center is, where we're going to scale to, okay? So to not do this, we just kind of have to fool it a little bit, okay? So go ahead and hit the left, or I'm sorry, right click on your mouse, cancel that move. Go ahead and hit Control Z. So we want to take that extrude away, okay? So now we're back before we extruded. Okay, and just to double check, with that edge selected, you can kind of move this around and just kind of make sure, okay, that goes where it's supposed to. Okay, go ahead and turn our clipping back on. See how that kind of moved around? And now when we pull, things are stuck together. Okay. Okay, so to fool it, we want to click our vertices. We want to click this vertice and that vertice. Okay, so what that does is it averages, you know, in the middle, right here. And then we can hit Shift S, and then we want to do cursor to selected. And then it's going to bring in our 3D cursor right here in the middle. Okay, and then up here at the top, let's see here, I think I hit something. Let me do this real quick. Okay, so now through here, if we go up here in the middle, you'll see this two little circles with the arrow, because that's where the average of the two items selected, that's going to place the cursor. So what we want to use, if we click that arrow, we can use the 3D cursor as the place that we want to, you know, make where everything scales to. So if we click that, so now this is where everything scales to no matter what. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm back. I think my recording window was weird. Okay, so what we just did was change this 3D cursor to be right here, and that's the thing we're going to scale around. Okay, so we choose edge select mode, Alt, left click. Okay, it's going to select our edge. We're going to hit E to extrude. We're going to right click. Okay, and then hit S to scale. Okay, and it's going to use that 3D cursor to scale to. So then that takes care of that weird problem that we had going on there. Okay, so let's go ahead and do scale again. Bring that in. Right there. So then we can do a E to extrude on the y-axis. Bring that back here. Okay, E to extrude. Right click, scale. Bring that down. Okay, E to extrude on the Y again. We're going to bring it out just a little bit further than that. Okay, and then E to extrude, right click, scale. Okay, you'll notice it's kind of going back there. So we can do, was that shift? That's Y axis, so shift Y. Okay, so cancel out that Y axis. Just kind of bring that in there. Okay. We should be able to do E to extrude, scale, shift Y. Let's go ahead and just kind of leave that open for now. In fact, what we can do, I know I told you it's kind of bad, but just to fill this space up with all this selected, hit F to fill. What that'll do, that'll put an end gun in there. We just want that face filled up for now, and we'll come back and fix it once we don't have the mirror. And so that should be good. All right. So Shift A, deselect. So if we kind of pull out, if we hit Tab, we kind of go in object mode. We kind of pull out and see what we have going on. Okay, and then to put our 3D cursor back to the middle of the world like it's supposed to, you just hit Shift C. Okay, and that'll go ahead and automatically place that 3D cursor there at 0, 0, 0. All right, and that should be good enough. And let's go ahead and worry about this inside piece here. So shift into edit mode. Trying to figure out the best way. And let's go ahead and do this. We'll select face select mode. Actually, this will be easier if we're given the edge mode. So let's go ahead and select that edge, that edge, that edge, that edge, that edge. Okay, trying to see. Okay, and we need to make sure we still have this set to be our center of attention. So let's go ahead and click back up here, and let's do median point. Yeah, okay. Let's go see if this works. Let's go ahead and E to extrude. And I'm going to try Alt S. And okay, so what I want to do now, let's see if I can exclude that Z-axis, because see how everything's kind of zooming into there. Let's see if we can do Shift Z. Okay, so now come straight across. There. Alright, we're going to try something else. Okay. So go ahead, since we still have those edges extruded, go ahead and hit Control Z a couple times until we don't have those that extruded edge anymore. And let's try doing this. Let's go ahead and do faces. Okay, now let's do an extrude on this. Do an Alt S. See, that's not doing what I want. So maybe just a straight feet scale. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Okay. Go ahead and get back to before we extruded there. I think what we'll have to do is if we select this face and this face, we can go ahead and select this face and this face. We can do and extrude. We want to do it along the we want to right click, okay, then we want to scale along the y-axis, okay, and then go forward, and that'll scale towards right there, and we just want to make it the leg about that thick there. Okay, so the only thing we need to do is go back into our vertex select mode, click this one, hold down shift, click that one, and pull along the x-axis. We just want to kind of pull it that way. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do, let's just do this edge and that edge. Then we'll do an extrude on the x-axis, pull it in to about the same distance. Okay, and now we just have to fill up this face and this face, and this one and this one, and then we'll fix this angle here. So we can just click that edge, hit fill, click that edge, hit fill, and then let's click on our vertices here, and then we can just drag along the X, bring it back down until it looks about right, about a 45-degree angle. Like I said, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be really something we see. So it doesn't have to be exact on that end. Okay, and then we're going to use our vertex snapping again. So what we want to do now is we want to extrude this vertice up and then snap it to the same height as what these are. So if we do E to extrude, right click, then we can left click on this Z arrow, start pulling up. You'll see where that one vertice pulls up. Hold down the control key, and we can just make sure that we're bringing up to the same level as these right here. Okay, and it's just a matter of going to edge select mode, and now we've got this edge. Select that edge, this edge, fill, that edge, this edge, and fill. Okay, and then see where the mirror comes in, because doing this kind of fiddly work, and we'd have to go over here and do it again. So, all right. Let's see, we can do this one of two ways. The easier way is going to be, go back into vertex select, click on that vertex, go ahead and E to extrude just that one vertex. Okay, we can hit X for the x-axis, and then hold down control because we want to snap it to this one right there. Okay, so now we just added a line on there, and if I would have thought about it, I would have selected this edge and this edge and this edge. You know, I selected that whole thing there when I made this arm, but I wasn't thinking. So then all we gotta do is hit edge select, grab that edge, shift that edge, hit fill. So 3D modeling is not an exact science. The other thing about 3D modeling is you can do a whole lot of mess ups, and that Control Z will take you right back out of it. So when I first started learning how to 3D model, I was always scared I was going to ruin what I just spent so much time doing. But you know, it kind of held me back a little bit. Just go ahead and just go, and then if you realize that you've made a mistake and you want to fix something, just hit that Control Z back as far as you can. Then you can just go back and, like I said, sometimes you just have to delete and get back to where you want to be. So it's not the end of the world if things happen. Okay, and same with this. And once again, I don't know if we can go ahead and grab that one and this one. And with clipping on, let's see, hit extrude, right click, hit scale Y, let's see if we can bring those in. Okay, and then we just want to bring them in to where we think. So if we want to be more accurate, we can click that, grab the x-axis, hold down the control button, snap it to there, grab the Y button, hold down control, snap it to there. Okay, and it's just a matter of filling these faces in. fill, and fill. Alright, so now we can do this just the fast way. Click that edge, click that edge, hit fill. Okay, so while we've got this separated, I know I need to put a loop cut here, and one here. So let's go ahead and do the one in the middle. Do Control R, do left click, left click. Okay, so we know that one's right in the middle. We can do a Control R, left click, and we can drag that orange line. You can hold that Control and it's going to snap in increments instead of the vertex there, but you know, you can just kind of get it close. Like I said, it's really not something anybody's going to see. Control R. Let's kind of do best guess there. Okay. Alright. If you can tell, I'm really not snapping to different views all that much. I just keep rotating, and the more you kind of rotate, the more you kind of get oriented on exactly where it is. But you know, to get dead accurate, you could hit its 7 is the top view. Okay. Look at the bottom. I believe it's Alt 7 or Control 7. That's your straight bottom view. With this new little compass widget, you can just, you know, there's a Z, which is the top view, and it gives you the shortcut, or that one. Click on there, you know, but then you can get an exact representation. But I just kind of keep rotating around, and it kind of gives me a solid idea where I'm at. Okay, but with this new geometry we've cut in there, and click that, go to there, hit fill, go to there, hit fill, go there, hit fill, and I'm just going to fill that in. All right. So with that, so we're not going to be that accurate. So as you notice, it kind of has these little cutouts here. We're going to put those in. These little brackets down here where they bolt the feet down to the concrete. I'm not going to worry too much about that. We might put, you know, just extrude some edges out, you know, if we want to, but it's kind of a stylized, so I mean, it's more or less, it's going to be a game object that's, you know, setting off the side. If it's going to be a hero object, that's where you can go in and really make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. The only other thing I was looking at is where these legs and this corner banding goes up. It's got a rounded thing here. I'm not too worried about that. I'll show you how we can do that, but it'll add a ton of geometry into something that probably won't be a hero object, and you know, it's not top A priority now. Like I said, if it's going to be a hero object that you're actually going to interact with and be an integral part of the game, like I said, I'll show you how to add where you can add this rounded kind of piping edge off to the side of it. But for now, I think what I'm going to do, and it's pulled up from here and everything, so the easiest thing to do is going to be extruding these edges out. So let's give that a shot. If I hold down Alt, I go into face select mode, hold down Alt, click that. I just don't want to click, I just don't want to select this stuff down here. Okay, so I only want these outside edges selected. Okay, it's a bit easier to. You can also, if you have a bunch of stuff to select, they got a circle select. You can hit C on your keyboard, brings up this little circle. you can do your scroll wheel and make that circle bigger or smaller. So about right here, and then you can just hold down the left click and hold it down. Okay. Then if you accidentally select something else, you can hold down Alt. Oh, I'm sorry, Control. You're supposed to. Okay. So with that, when you're done with it, you just go out here and right click and make it go away. Then you hold down Shift and just deselect those faces. So usually you can hold down Alt with the circle, but it wasn't working. Okay. So let's try this Alt S one more time. That should work here. So we're going to do E for extrude. Okay, hit right click, so it cancels that. We got extruded faces, but we haven't done anything with them yet. And then hit Alt S. Okay. Look in the upper left-hand corner. If I move my cursor, it's going to do all sorts of crazy stuff. But the upper left-hand corner of the screen, you'll see some words that say shrink and fatten, which is this right here. You also see where it says even thickness off. So if we hit S, okay, so we hit S, it'll turn even thickness on, and that's kind of what we want. So we don't want to pull it out that much. Let's try about right there. Okay, so that worked pretty good. And what the Alt S does, it uses the normal direction of each face and extrudes it out along that direction. So anything that's pointing this way, it extruded out that way, and anything pointing this way, it went that way. And it works better going out than it does going in. So do that number right there. Like I said, it's a little too much, but it's stylized. We can do what we want. Alright. So now I was going to show you the really cool thing if you wanted to add this rounded kind of 3/4 pipe feature along here. Okay, so we've got this edge that runs along here. We go into edge select mode. Okay. We can select, hold down Alt. I'm going to select that edge to Alt and click there. Okay, we just want to make sure we don't have edges we don't want to select. So that one. Take those off right there. Okay, so now that we have this edge highlighted, we want to duplicate that edge. Okay, just that edge all by itself. So if we go into Shift D, okay, so we've duplicated that edge. Oh, and there's stuff we didn't want to. It's alright, we'll take over in a second. We don't want to move it around, we want to leave it exactly where it's at. So right click on your mouse, it'll cancel all that out, but the edge is still there. Okay, so the purposes of this, I want to separate this edge geometry from the rest of this geometry, so we don't mess this up while we're messing with this. Okay, so to separate this out, with that selected, we can hit P on our keyboard. Okay, it's called separate. We want to separate by selection. Okay, so what we have selected. So we can left click on our mouse. You'll see things kind of disappear. But if we tab back into object mode, okay, we should now be able to click, and it's going to select that as a separate piece of, this should be mailbox.001. Okay, that's going to be a separate piece of geometry. And this will be important here in a second. I just use, to do this maneuver, you just want it separated from this geometry. Okay, so if we, with this selected, this new edge, tab back into edit mode, and then over here in our hierarchy window, to make this easier to pay attention to this, I'm going to go ahead and temporarily turn the visibility off on the main mailbox. So we'll go ahead and click on that eyeball. Okay, so now we can see this geometry, and you can see when we duplicated, it duplicated the mirror too. Okay, so it brought the mirror with it, the modifier. Okay, so we're in edit mode with our edge selected. We just want to go ahead and get rid of these. We don't want those right there. So hit edges. Okay, all we want is that right there. Okay, so right now this is geometry. Okay, we've got a feature I'm going to show you real quick, but you have to use it as a like a line. Let's see if I can do it. So with that selected, we can go up here to edges, left click. Let's see, it might be the other one. Yep, it's going to be under mesh. Okay, so click mesh. We want to go down to where's that at? I wonder if it, okay, go back into object mode. Okay, so make sure you're in object mode with these selected. Go to object. There we go. Okay, so in object mode, with that selected, you go to object. You want to go to where it says convert to. Okay, so you got some choices here. Grease pencil's a new one, but that's a whole different deal. We've got mesh from curve, so we can use, if we have a curve thing that we've made some stuff out of, we can convert that to a mesh object. Okay, or now that we have a mesh object, we can convert that to a curve. Okay, and the wording is a little different, but it's curve from mesh. Okay, it's not curve to mesh, but curve from mesh. So we want to turn that into a curve. So click that. And then if we go back into tab, this is now a curve object with these little, I call them catfish whiskers. But it just kind of tells you the direction of the curve there. Okay, but a cool feature with Blender, with these curves, go into these modifiers, we can go over here. Let's see. All right, it's got this little curve image right here. Okay, we want to do shape, make sure it's 3D. They got a resolution. What we want to do, we'll make sure the fill mode is set to full. And then let's see, geometry. Down here where it says bevel, okay, it has depth 0 meters. If you click on these little arrows, you'll see over here, this is going to grow into like a pipe. Okay. That might be, actually might be good enough. Let's see. You can kind of tell us where the edge is now is where the edge is, and I think that's going to be way too much. So let's do 0.012. Just be on the safe side. Okay, and let's kind of see, it's actually using these segments, you know, like we want it to. So we can do that to make this right here. And then it's just a matter of tapping back into object mode, going to object, going back down to convert, and we want to make a mesh from curve object. Okay, and that just converts it back into a mesh. All right, and then let's kind of do some cleanup here. Particularly sure. I'm going to go ahead, if we go into edge select mode, I want to select that edge and that edge. And if we hit X, dissolve edges, take care of that. Oh, okay, we converted it from a shape back into a mesh. It squashed our mirror modifier, which is no problem. Let's go ahead. do this. This one seems sticking out just a bit. Okay. X dissolve edges. Okay. Tab back in object mode. Okay, let's go ahead and turn our visibility back on our mailbox. All right. And then to reintegrate this back into our main mesh, we can just have these selected, shift our main mailbox. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do this before we do anything. Go ahead and click that, tab. Since we're going to be bringing it back into a mirrored piece of geometry, we can get rid of this. So Alt-A, make sure nothing's selected, hover over this and hit L. I'll select everything, hit X, go ahead and do vertices. Okay, get tab back in object mode. And we got this selected, shift select that, and hit Control J for join. Okay, now that joined those two separate pieces back into one piece. So when we go into tab, now everything's in edit mode. There. And it's kind of an exaggerated form, but like I said, you can adjust how much you extrude that out. Let's see how round. Yeah, I mean, we probably could have done half that. And it'll look okay. Up in there, we might be able to. If we do scale, just gonna try this out. Individual origins. Yeah. Sorry about my phone. Okay, so, but I mean, you get the gist. On there. Let's see. Yeah, we probably just have to go back and redo the curve thing, but you know, it's just trial and error. Go back in there. We might actually even be able to go back that way. I mean, but you can mess around. I'm going to hit P, separate it, bring it out, choose that, X, delete. Okay, I just don't want to put that on there. Okay, so we've got our primary modeling done with this object. And if you've noticed, we do have some pretty flat fastening along here. And that's just, you know, instead of having to create all sorts of geometry and make things smooth, there is a smoothing algorithm that we can use that does carry over to Unity. So to use that, we can just select our mailbox. We want to go up to it's object, and then we want to go down here where it says shade smooth. Okay, and then at first glance, it's like, oof, you know, that looks pretty horrible. But we can fix that. Okay, so if we go into tab, and then what we want to do is make sure nothing's selected. So Alt A. Okay, go into I believe it's edge select mode. Let's see here. Go down here towards the bottom, and it has where it says mark sharp. Okay, we don't want we want to go over to select. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Go to select, and then we want to go down to select sharp edges. Okay, so we want to click that. Now you'll see some edges automatically get selected. Okay. If we go down here to the lower left, pull that up. It's selecting sharp edges based on a 30-degree bend in the geometry. So if the edge is along a two faces that are bend are greater than 30 degrees from each other, it's going to select that edge. Okay, and that's usually 30 degrees is usually pretty spot on. It does pretty much everything that you want to do. You still kind of want to go over and make sure that there's no edges you don't want to mark sharp. So you can deselect those. You know, nothing like that's ever perfect, but this comes pretty close. So yeah, pretty much got all the stuff that we need. So as I said, we'll fix this when we get that mirror thing done. Okay, so from here, once we have this selection, then we can go into our edge menu, select that, and then we want to mark sharp. Okay, so now we're telling it all these edges we want it to mark as a sharp edge. Okay, and it does a pretty good job as far as clearing that stuff up, but there's one more step we need to do. And that's if we go over here to our settings over here, there's this little triangle piece. Click on there. And we want to go down to where it says geometry data. Okay, and sorry, we want to go where it says normals. Sorry about that. And we want to click auto smooth. Okay, so now it's going to smooth all the faces as best it can based on that same 30-degree angle. Okay, so it's kind of hard to tell here. If I tab back into object mode, you'll see it does a pretty good fakery, if you can come up with a better term, of that smooth edge. It definitely takes a lot of that fasting out of it. It's never going to be perfect, but this is going to be an asset, you know, that's not running there. You know, from here, that looks pretty good. You know, if you guys just, you know, walking by in a game. But, you know, even AAA games, if you get up close to something, you'll really see, you know, how much there isn't geometry, and it's all supported by, you know, fakery. But once we have these sharp edges done, we can actually take this 30 degrees and go all the way up to 180 is the maximum. Okay, and we just want to make sure that we're getting the maximum smoothing for the geometry that's going on there. So I did a little bit more, and nothing is looking really weird. So that's just what I'm checking for in there. So that's not really obvious until you get right up on there. Okay, so, and then when we export it, it'll export this information with it over to Unity, and Unity will kind of do the same thing on its render. Okay, so we just want to this area here and leave that on there. Okay, so next thing we want to do now is we're going to on the mirror modifier, we're going to apply it, which just means that we're just going to make this geometry over here real. Now, it's not just going to be a mirror that we can turn off. We're going to apply it, and this way it'll be all one piece of geometry. I'm kind of hesitant to do it because it makes the UV process much better. So let's go ahead and just wait just a second. So let's go ahead and we can go ahead and let's just make it not visible. That'll make it a little easier to concentrate on. And then if we tab it back into edit mode, go ahead and click Alt A, kind of deselect everything. The sharp edges kind of stand out and confuse things. Okay, so UV unwrapping is the unique art of telling Blender that we want to cut our model apart. Theoretically, it's not doing it in real time, but we want to cut the model apart in texture space, just like taking a cardboard box and cutting the edges so it lays out flat. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we're going to lay all of these faces out flat in an undistorted way. Okay, that's another important thing. We don't want any stretching. If we stretch geometry, it'll stretch the texture, and it'll look like you have some weird pulling and stuff. So it's just a matter of cutting our model apart in a manner that it'll allow us to place it, textures or paint it to make it look good. Okay, so we're going to be selecting edges and just going along and looking at our model, and then I'll show you kind of an automatic way, but it's not a perfect way. So I'll do this one first. So we want to go ahead and cut this bottom piece out here. We want to make this all one piece. Okay, so like I said, we're not actually physically cutting this away. We're marking edges of where we want for lack of a better term, they call these UV islands. Okay, so where we want this UV island separated from the others. So we'll select that edge, this edge, this edge. And as you can see, why I didn't want to add that modifier yet, because this, makes half the work. Okay, so once I have all of these edges selected, I can go up here to UV and go down to where it says Mark Scene. Okay, and do Mark Scene. Okay, and you'll see it kind of turns red. Okay, and that means you've got a seam marked there, so it knows when you go to unwrap it in UV, that it's going to make this piece separate from all these other pieces. Okay, I don't know, I feel like I'm over-explaining anything, but I probably am. Okay, so let's go ahead and stick with these big planes here. So with this edge already out, we just need to select this edge. And we might be able to hold it down and say Shift Alt and select that whole edge loop. And that's going to stop right there. It's close. Okay, and then select the edge loops. Want to make sure things aren't selected we don't want selected. Okay, so all I did is I selected this inside edge here, and so another shortcut to do it is you hit U on your keyboard. It brings up the UV menu. It's going to mark seam. Okay. All right, now let's I'm going to cut this pieces out here. So to do that, this is already cut out here. I'm going to select that edge, and then I'm going to select this edge and that edge. And that is all one piece, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select this edge and that edge. That's all. I want to make these pieces too big. I'll do. You can see if, even though this is built over at a 90-degree angle, when this face, this face, this face, that face, this face is separated, it's going to stretch out as to one long face. So all the faces will be pointing up where we can texture it. Which it'll make more sense once we do the unwrapping process. But yeah, those are the edges I want to select. So I can hit U, mark seam. Okay. And it's not as important nowadays, but you kind of want to keep your seams as hidden as possible. This one's not as important, but usually it's an organic model. If you're doing a character or something, you want to hide the seams as best you can in inconspicuous places. So let's go ahead and I'll kind of come into this right here. We'll do the seam. Fact. Here's what I want to do with this. I want to cut that seam. But what I want to do is I want to make this inset piece that we brought out. Okay, I need to separate from the other pieces because no matter what I do, it's going to you know, you really can't lay flat inside. You know, it's going to expand out. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make sure that I do this. Go on the inside. I want to select that seam. I'm basically just kind of cutting out that door that we extruded out there. Okay, make sure mark it. Okay, and then the door, what we want to do with it is cut that corner. And that corner. Hit you. Marcy. Okay, and then I got this. Now what I'm attempting to do is I'm going to cut this right here, and then I'm going to leave this piece, you know, as part of this piece. But this, I'm going to cut it away and then let it hinge along this edge here. And then when it goes out flat, it'll lay out flat, you know, like wings going off to the side. But I'll show you better when we actually do the unwrap. So I'm going to go ahead and cut an edge here, edge here. Now I'm not going to cut an edge here. I've already got this edge cut here. And let's go ahead and do an edge here. Just run this down like that. Just kind of, I know I'm putting an edge right down the middle of a face there, but let's get that done for there. Okay, so with that selected, hit U, seam. Okay, now it's just a simple fact of choosing that. Okay, hit U, mark seam, and that might be, it's pretty long, but it'll be okay. So we got this one, separated that out. All the front of this piece is separated out, that door, that panel. Okay, here's the next thing. I'm gonna go ahead, let me choose faces real quick. Since these are the bottom of the feet, and they are not going to be seen, we just can go ahead and delete those. And that'll make life a little easier. Delete those faces. Okay, so that's actually going to be sitting on the ground. No possible way that we can see that in our game view. Okay. And then the best way. Curves are the worst. Trying to figure out how to lay those out. So let's just go ahead and I'm going to run a seam right up here. And it's not the best #1 choice, but it's going to be the easiest way to do this. So, plus I said, it's not as vital now, especially if you're doing like a lot of damage, textures and stuff. It might come into play, but we're just going to do a simple, clean texture setup. It's not going to be a factor. Okay, so we just basically cut that edge all the way over there. We hit U, mark seam. Okay, so now what we want to do is I'm just looking. let's go ahead and choose that edge. Sorry. It's all kind of a working process to see what the best way to do. So let's choose these two edges that we just marked as a seam. I don't want to do these as part of that. I want to make them as part of the legs. Just kind of keep a thing there. So once we've already marked that as a seam, we don't want to do that. So we hit U, highlight them, hit U. We want a clear seam. Okay, so now that's no longer a designated cut spot. Okay, and then we've already got this cut from the inside, right there. Okay, I'm looking at this too. Let's go ahead and we're going to cut along the bottom here, separate these legs from everything else. And there, I think this seam's already all cut out. Like I said, this will all make better sense when we do I'll do the UV unwrap and show you the layout. Okay, and this kind of takes experience on visualizing what it's going to look like when it unfolds. But essentially what we've done now is these legs are going to be separate islands now. So got those highlighted, hit U. Let's go ahead and mark seam. And now I'm second guessing here. See on these inside flaps, when we unwrap, if we cut these deals here like we need to, they're actually going to overlap each other the way it's going to unwrap. So I need to undo this inside. Hold on, Shift Alt. Shift Alt. Okay, so we need to clear that seam. Clear seam. And then I want to do this edge right here instead. So we'll just choose that. There. That. Okay, so make a long story short. Okay, so let's go ahead and mark that seam. So you mark seam. Alright, and now I want to grab each and every one of these edges here along this underside, and I want to cut those separately, and then when they lay out, they'll lay out without stretching. If I didn't cut those, it would stretch real bad, and if we had any kind of a texture, it'd be all stretchy. And the cool way that we can do this, like the same way that we can select a whole edge loop around, we can select these all the way around. Hit Alt A, make sure nothing's selected. Kind of hover our cursor over right here, and we can hit Control Alt and click that. Okay, and if you look up, it goes around the whole face loop, is what it calls it, and selects all the edges along that face loop. So that's just another little shortcut instead of you having to go around and click each one. Hit U, mark seam. Okay. Like I said, it seems a little crazy now, but it'll make sense once we get around there. Okay, so we got this one cut out. We're gonna have this seam cut out, and we basically just need to do the same thing here. We just need to cut the relief edges there. Shift or Control Alt, click that. So we're going to double check and make sure we're not. So we don't need. I think I'm going to fix that. These are all highlighted. That is not. Okay, so that's exactly what we want to do. So we hit U, mark seam. Okay. I'm trying to see. I think we got. everything but the main legs. And what we want to do with the legs, if you can tell, we only need to cut the seam in one spot. So that, just that. Clear seam. Had a rogue thing in there. Okay, so we just need to cut these legs in one spot. That's going to be this seam and that one right there. So when we cut that, it should roll out flat along cylinder. So we'll kind of find it when we do the unwrap. So we need to do U, mark seam. Okay. Let's see if we can hear it. Let's go ahead and fix the cylinder while we have that turned off. Let's delete that face. And what we'll do is we'll do the same trick again. That one. Shift S, cursor to selected. Our cursor in. Make sure we're scaling to the 3D cursor. We're going to choose edges, hit extrude, scale, shift Y. Let's see, let's try the Alt M. Okay, and then we're going to merge at cursor. Okay, so it's going to merge everything there at that center point there, that cursor. Okay, so now when we bring our mirror back in, it's going to mirror that back over. Alright, that's just one way of fixing that. Let's go ahead and get this set up for unwrapping. Can't remember, yeah, I think on the back side. Okay, so these round ones, the best way to do these, and it kind of seems counterintuitive, but yeah, it's just whatever you want to do. We can actually get rid of this edge right here. Just kind of save on some geometry. So we can Alt left click that, hit X, do dissolve edges. Okay, for some reason I had to have that on. Okay, so the best thing to do on these little cylinder pieces when you have bits like this, is just Alt left click these edges, hold down Shift to select multiple edges along here. Okay, and then you just hit U, mark seam. Okay, and that's just gonna cut all that out. It's in the long run, it's the easiest way to go, especially if this is all going to be, you know, just real simple. If it's a real high detail piece, then there's other ways you can do it, but that right there is going to be the best. All right, and then let's look at this handle. It's going to be pretty much like the feet. We're just going to have this piece. So let's do this. This is going to be most seams, but we don't want to seam here. So if we cut here, hold down Shift, there, 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 there. Let's fill it back out on the inside. So I want to make sure. Yeah, there's no face on the inside. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to cut this out here, but it's going to hinge along this right here and lay out flat. Okay. And then the other thing to do is going to be just like the legs. We just need to select this inside edge. Hold on Shift. Select that. All right. U, mark seam. All right. I think we just have one more thing to go. That's going to be this dude right here. And this is going to be pretty much the same. We just want to select that edge, this. let it hinge across here. Go ahead and select this edge and that edge. And we don't want it to lay across overlap here. Let's go ahead and select this edge and this edge too. And what this will do is this will cut this back, faces off all as its own separate piece. And then these outside edges, which the inside, is not that big a deal. And then these outside, we don't have any overlapping. And this is where the more you do it, the more you'll realize that these are going to overlap. If you cut up here, this would unwrap up, and then this would actually unwrap, flap under. They'll overlap, and sometimes that'll cause some weird artifacting in your textures. So you just want to kind of avoid that. So we hit U. Okay, mark seam. Okay, I believe we are done with that. Okay, so now let's turn our mirroring back on. Okay, and there's one more thing we need to do after we make this all one single piece of geometry. But first we need to tab back into object mode. Okay, it won't let you apply this in edit mode. Let's kind of double check one more time and hit apply. Okay, so now when we go back in the tab, it's all one piece. So now we just need to get rid of this middle piece of geometry here. Because what that does, even though it helps us on the mirror, it doesn't help on any of the modeling. It doesn't hold any detail at all, and it just doubles the geometry across here. Instead of two faces, we want just one face. Okay, so just hold down Alt and left click. It should select that whole entire middle loop, and then we can just do X, dissolve edges. Alright, and then we're going to have the same thing here with our handle. We can go ahead, hold down that. Okay, hit X, dissolve edges. And if we really want to get into it, we could really clean this geometry up, because we can make let's see if that's we probably could, because see these edges here, it's flat geometry. All it's doing is separating a flat face, so it's really not holding any kind of a detail. So to just to kind of demonstrate on what we need to do here, we just need to select that edge, hold down Shift, that edge, this edge, that edge. Select that edge, that edge. We can hit X, dissolve edges. Okay, but now we've got this kind of weird n-gon because it's got more than 4 edges going across there. But we can just go into vertex mode, select that vertex, hold down Shift, that vertex, hit J, okay, and that'll make that 2 separate faces. Oops. Oh yeah, it is. It's select that vertex, Shift, select that vertex, hit J. Okay, that'll join these two. Double checking, select a face, make sure that these 2 faces select separately. Okay, so in essence, I mean, if you're running on real short on geometry, trying to make a a low geometry model, we saved a whole lot of triangles there and stuff just now. So we just need to do the same thing over here. And it's usually, if you're modeling for a video game asset, it's usually best practices. And we could go through there and see, like, this is doing nothing. We could we could get rid of this edge and have these vertices, which aren't really doing anything except holding this drawer right here. You know, run a triangle because video games, you know, like triangles. But we're not going to get that in depth into it. We're just going to do this right here. Dissolve edges. Okay, and we could do the same thing here, but we're not. Okay. So now the only other thing we need to do, go back into object mode, is everything here got probably kind of out of whack. Since we're doing an edit mode, if I hit N on my keyboard, it'll bring up this thing right here. So it's saying our scale is still 1, which is good. That's how we want to do it. Our location and rotation is still good. Okay. So there's no, we're not moved anywhere, and we're not. Shift C. Make sure that's on. Okay. And that stuff right there.